Catherine, first thing I'll do is I'll say hello. I'm Alan. I'm
Yay.
director of IAYO. We have the whole office here today. So Sinead is there with the purple background, and Bertie is there with his door in the background. And
To escape.
unusual for us all to attend workshops like this, but so we're all here today. And um, so yeah, we've started. I'm hoping now actually to run workshops fairly consistently through until Christmas. So COVID-19 has shut down youth orchestras, and when they will really start up, we don't really know. And what exactly is happening in the world, who knows? But we're going to continue in some respect, and hopefully music teaching will continue, and hopefully ensemble music making for young people will continue also. We just might have to invent how that happens again. So last week we had chamber music with Katharine Baker, and so how to get people together in small numbers in real life. And so this week, Catherine here. So Catherine is a violin and viola player, always a good combination, and runs the Athenry Music School, which has grown enormously in quite a short time and has a whole load of ensembles. Catherine is not here presenting as an expert as such. She is here presenting as someone actually who's kind of fairly far ahead in the planning, because I've attended meetings in numerous different countries with numerous different organizations, and no one's really managed to just completely reinvent everything and say, oh, grand, we can now go on perfectly online and do stuff. So what Catherine has planned for her own school, and what we're going to see here is fairly much the best I have seen of like a planning how to cope with this and how to keep on going regardless of what happens. So with that, I do. Oh yes, actually, there's one thing, which is we are recording the session. It will be available online for maybe about 6 weeks or so after we are done. So if you don't want to be recorded, well then just turn your video off and you won't be. So with that, welcome everyone, and I will hand over to Catherine, and I will turn on the dreaded PowerPoint.
Yeah, thanks, Alan, for that introduction. I might get onto you privately later to just wiggle my finger at you and that set me up or what. I'm just going to say, because I can see Carolina's come in and Yvonne has come in. It's lovely to see you. Anybody that I don't mention individually, like I'm now looking at two screens to see that I can actually say hello to Magella and Elizabeth and Uta. That I think that initially in these meetings that we all feel like we bring lecture to, and that's not it. We are a group. We happen to be meeting on a Zoom call, but it's the same way as if we were in a room, that you can do an active welcome to each person within your ability to scan. So that would be my attempt. A passive welcome is high. And I talk to my orchestras about this, that you can look at the language that you use, and that each individual person, it's very important to have names and things. So Alan, you are popping that up. What I will say as he does this is that this is only something that I came up with for Athenry Music School. We're in a particular individual set of circumstances in that we will not have rooms big enough that are ours to do orchestra. We have orchestra members from maybe 57 different schools, and that my intuition is that it's maybe not an idea to mix them, and that I've got 4 sons, looking at capacity for teenagers to actually physically distance and for them to control their own environment. I can say as an adult, if somebody gets too close to me, sorry, I'm so sorry, and I can we space out a wee bit. Whereas I don't think that many teenagers have that capacity, and therefore to put them in an environment in which they don't control their own safety with whatever considerations they want to have, I'm not sure that it'll work so well. So we looked at delivering online orchestra performance models, and it's a strategic plan. It's fluid. We're changing it all the time. I'm trying to look at everything. This is one possible way that I know is going to change throughout the year. So it's not this is the way, this is our way for me. And I'm really happy to share it with you, and I'm really glad you're all here. So the starting point of this, you're all right?
No, where are
Do you
we?
know what? If you do yeah, okay.
I have to go to.
Do you want to leave that up? Because people can see where they're going. And also from me navigating a PowerPoint, it's actually easier for me to see where I'm going.
Yeah. Okay.
I'd really appreciate that if everybody else doesn't mind.
No, I'm just going to stop there a moment. Sorry, because for some reason my machine won't leave me do what I want to do, which is
I'm going to talk ahead and
do.
you can catch up with me. So
Yeah.
essentially the decision making in April of 2020, which was a really different world from March 2020, Harvard and Cambridge, so two extremely reputable, multidisciplinary department, talking people, decided that they were going to go online until the summer of 2021. And I looked at it and went, what are they doing here? Are they planning to go online? Are they, what does that allow us to do? And I started looking at options and I went, okay, I could wait and see. I don't like waiting and seeing because it's not concrete. We could plan as if it's normal. And my instinct said that maybe wouldn't work for me because of the size of our rooms. We could plan for small sectionals and look at big venues. We could actually do a ghost year. It is always an option to go, this is too hard, it's too much work, the benefit to the kids is diminished. And I sat through a seminar recently that somebody talked about not-for-profits to make sure that if you go online or if you go face-to-face, that you absolutely serve your ethos, you remain within your belief system. So I didn't fancy any of the first four. So I sort of started trying to look at a different way to allow us to plan and to allow my teachers to know what was going to be expected of them, because the uncertainty just paralyzed me. That how do I do this? I know you're having bother.
Yeah, it just doesn't want to work. Oh, there we go. Sorry.
Okay, it's just fine, Alan. We all have to work around this, and we're all very patient, and we're musicians, so we can breathe and pace things. So essentially, what I looked at was, I'm not planning to do orchestra online all year because I don't want to do orchestra online all year, but I wanted to create a plan to allow us to do orchestra online all year, so that if I can get these students back in face-to-face when they're safe, then I will, but I won't do anything in a hurry. So what we needed to do was to come up with a model that could be first delivered online and rolled to a live setting or switched to a live setting, as opposed to designed live and rolled online, because I'm not sure that progression pathway works, because of the online is an entirely different teaching environment, as we all darn know, whereas live is just beautiful. I would be so delighted to be walking in. So what are the problems? It's not orchestra. It's just not orchestra. It's the least desirable way to meet a bunch of people. That said, this morning at the start of this meeting was absolutely beautiful. We have problems with delivery methods. How on earth do you actually do this? The quality of what we're delivering. I think the repertoire needs to be different. You can't teach. Like last year, we prepared Sam Perkins in Spirit. It's 20 different parts. It's hugely polyphonic. I can't do that. How do you group sections? What considerations do I do to end up with a viable, meaningful group within a Zoom? How do I timetable it? My students are coming back to partial face-to-face lessons or whole face-to-face lessons. And that normally what they would do is they'd walk from a 6:30 violin class to 7 o'clock orchestra within the same. But if they're in orchestra online and they're in the music school and they live half an hour away, they can't do it. So I needed to look at every single individual parent actually is being contacted at the moment. And we have looked at the 330 families, and we've come up with solutions for them that there's half an hour buffers in between their orchestras. I didn't get 100% success, but I did get about 98% success. If you have 4 groups, for instance, if you were to look at grouping your sections and say I have an orchestra of 4 different parts, so that not necessarily violin 1, violin 2, viola, cello, you know, your violins and your flutes could have the same part, because I think they have to be the same in a group. How do you get your tutors? Because you'd need 4 tutors to work at the same time, I think. Because if I want to bring a quarter of them in, I need to keep the time same, because parents will, like, if I switch things around, parents are actually going to stab me in my bed. The cost, if you have 4 tutors, how do you afford that? How do you balance a budget? And then we've actually got to keep it fun. So that picture is my youth orchestra, my beautiful youth orchestra, who are my favorite bunch of teenagers on the planet, getting to gig with Wee Banjo 3 in September. So I'm very conscious that we're losing a lot of things, and we've got to look for silver linings, I suppose, and creative solutions. And then we get to the big problems. Senior orchestra. If you have a full orchestra, and I don't have actually a full orchestra, but my senior orchestra has flutes, oboe, clarinet, saxophone, an accordion, lever harps, a timpani player. How do I do this? And I'm getting there, but I still don't have solutions for every single child yet. Certainly not my timpani player. We want to check, why are we doing this? And I've talked a bit about that. That is it my priority to allow these children to do any sort of progress within the next year? Because I think we are music educational services and specialists. We're music educationalists. We have to be musically educating these kids into the best of our ability. And for us just to stop and not do anything when we've had since March to look at this, I don't want to do that. And then what form, like the carrot for my kids, is going on tour to Belgium, going to Stormont and playing with another Northern Irish orchestra. And we can't do any of that. So I need to have sort of cool things. And I think we're going to tire of Zoom boxes with videos. So it's what form will it take? These are all questions and problems. What I did when I got to the stage of going, I think I want to try this, I don't really know how to do it, I actually just sent an email to my creation orchestras, our entry-level orchestra, so they'd be aged 7 to 11, really compliant kids, nice age group. And I sent a Google Doc to the parents going, hey, listen, we're going to try a pilot scheme. We asked about, were they willing to do it? You know, would you be up for this? And I had set kids into rooms, we color coded them. And are you available to do it? And what were your concerns? And about 3 out of 4 came back and went, yeah, that's actually, they would love that. They haven't seen anybody, because online school wasn't really online school. Online school was about emailing homework to children. So they were really quite excited to see each other. And I phoned, okay, out of the 70 children that were involved, I'd say I did 20 phone calls. So my percentages might be wrong there. Some of them said their internet wasn't good enough. And actually, when I did a test call, most of them were. They did glitch sometimes, but they could get by it. So I got those kids in. Some kids and parents just didn't think it would work. And I said, okay, but let's make an informed decision. This is an experiment. So it'd be really cool if they could actually give feedback. You know, I think that people who come in as skeptical to any environment are much more useful than me, who tends to be quite a bit of a fundamentalist and going, yes, this will work, because they troubleshoot and they see what doesn't work. So they're vital. So the other one was that the kids didn't want to be on a camera, particularly 13, 14-year-olds. And what I said to them was, listen, come in under your mum's banner, keep your speaker off. I'll say you are, so I said I'd lie, which is often what you do in orchestra. Like, you often tell the double basses that they're the most important instrument in the orchestra. and we lie all the time. So I said I would lie on their behalf and say, you are my quality controller. You are observing. If you're looking at yourself in a box, sometimes you can't concentrate on what other people are doing. And I got everybody bar 2. So, but it did take time. And I got to talk to parents, and I like talking to parents. So, okay, this, I'm going to fly through this because this is common sense. General line, what I said to them was, please have the instrument tuned. I'm not in the same room as you. Have the music, and the music was sent out to them as a special project so that it was new. I thought they needed something fresh. Put it on the music stand, and I sent a photograph of my setup. I don't need to see the music stand. I don't want, like, the music stand here, I can't see the kid. Have your instrument, whoops, positioned. Can I do this? I'm in my neighbor's house, as some of you know, because I said it at the start, because my internet crashed yesterday. So what I wanted was probably that, so that, and actually I'd be better if I could see the bottom. That was an awful sound. If I could see the bottom of their bow, that's pretty cool. But I can gauge, and I have stickers on my bow so that people can see placement. So a cellist, I was trying, like David Mund did this recently on the Benedetti sessions, and he had his, he had the camera really quite far down at the bridge, and then you could see up, like it was foreshortened, but you could see up. So it was about being able to see their face, see their fingers. Like, kids think I have the most amazing ears. You know, I can see that the back of the third violin is out of tune. I can't hear that. I can see that the F sharp's flat, you know. So I can see what's going on. It's particular with string instruments. I know that there are wind specialists in the room, and that you actually would be much better than I would at picking up whether the child was playing the right note on the flute or not. Like, I sit with fingering charts sometimes when I'm doing this so that I can sort of fake it. But it was important to have that logistics done. I asked them to be in a quiet space. You know, the sound on and sound off, that language only came up in the sessions, that the kids did not like the word mute. You know, mute yourself sounds like shut up. You know, and I actually do a thing in orchestra. I never tell them to be quiet. I count down. They know that I don't get to 1. You stop talking at 2. And there's total silence, and we define silence in a live rehearsal. What is silence? Oh, that's what I'm looking for. Okay, 5, 4, 3. Questions that if they wanted to question, I can't see you guys at the moment, by the way, so I can't tell any questions. But questions, they were to literally wave at me. I wanted the parents to stay so that if the child got lost, if their internet got glitched, if I missed them in the waiting list, there was a phone sitting in front of me, and they went, they texted me, and I kept an eye on it. And I warned them that I would record the rehearsal so that I could use it to look back and see what I'd missed. Like, sometimes I misinterpreted a child going like this, and I didn't see it. So I asked, you know, could I record it, and could I use it for ongoing professional development of my tutors? And by entering the Zoom class, they were giving me permission to do that. It wouldn't be shared externally outside of the music school, which is why it's not included in this presentation, actually. So we did what, okay, this is looking at a possible way, and I'm conscious, like, I've worked with an awful lot of you in this room. We all have different methods of doing things. I'm 48. When I was 20, I thought there was one way, my way. And then you work with other people and you realize it just matters that you believe in what you're doing. The child will then believe in you. So this is a way that I believed in, but it is not the only way at all. And we're going to look and see, can we pull all our different experiences together in a little bit. So we started with our speakers on. I asked them, like, I talked to all of them on the way in, how are you, how's school? There were only 12 people in the group. It was very manageable. And they were then asked an open question, non-music related, like for the babies, I used a cat or dog, and what was better. And then I feigned horror when they said a dog. The older students, we did things like, if superpowers were real, should you be able to use them to fight crime? And then, because that one's much meatier, I ended up using the excuse to, if a shy child said something and then a more confident child said something, I would refer back to the shy child's answer to say, oh, that sounds like you're actually agreeing with Maya. And, you know, what do you think of what Stephen said? So that you were creating connections between children the same way as you would in a live orchestra setting. And it worked. They liked it. They had a giggle at people. And of course, you've got the very confident children that just say amazing things. You know, these children gobsmack me all the time with the way their brains work. They're much clearer on occasions than adults. So then we actually did some music. So it was tutor speaker on, the member speaker off. Everything was done with the metronome. And we did the same thing. I was conscious that repetition online can be really boring. So I needed to vary it. So every time there was something else that happened. So they looked at doing scales with bowing exercises. And you can see the bowing exercises. I can't see myself at the moment, so I don't know whether I'm positioned properly. But we did a scale that ended up to be, the hardest one is 6. And we did 5 and we did 4, and we got the kids to pick, so that they did them with me. They did them call and answer. So I play, I'll count you in. So the delay doesn't matter. They are playing with the whatever sound they're hearing from me. They could play it at canon, and that one was very interesting because we could actually get them to listen and see what was going on. And we did 2-part music. Now, they would have already known this from pieces that we've done. I played the bass line, they played the melody line, and I got them to record and send it to me so that I could see, you know, because this was a pilot scheme, it was an investigation to see how this worked. And the last thing we did was ostinati, and they are hugely vital in this particular thing, that you can do something that repeats so that a child can drop in and or drop out and actually have the ability to get back in again, because it's just it's an ostinati. Like Pachelbel's canon will work beautifully online, apart from the poor cellists. And you've got, I'm just seeing a waiting list. I've just admitted somebody there, Alan, because it was blocking my screen. So how does that create a sense of harmony? The canon was vital for discerning which notes were in tune and which notes were sort of edgy, and I got the kids to talk about it. The metronome, everybody can hear the metronome, so that the metronome is on my side. It's on my phone. I would have shown them that I wasn't actually playing with my phone, which it now looks like I'm doing, and that, so I would have found out, let me get it to, I worked in between 60 and 120 with these kids mostly, so that doesn't matter. That's 2/4 at 100. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1 and 2 and 1. That's fast. Wouldn't be rehearsing at that. Okay. So from the harmonic stuff, and we'll just go back there for a second to the slide, online methodology 3, Alan. I asked the kids, and like we did the scales quite slowly. We did them at about 60. I asked the children which notes of theirs were not in tune, which notes of theirs were in tune. So they went, ooh, I don't know whether my B was in tune, like I'm dealing in D major. Generally, their leading note was not sharp enough. The F sharp when tuned with an A wasn't sharp enough. And there's, if we did particularly when we did the scale in fourths, that we went parallel, that I started and said, so I played 4 notes and then they came in after 4 notes, and the tuning there was abysmal, they said. Which bowings were more difficult? 6 is the most difficult one I found, and the kids talked about it. And then we talked about how to fix it. What do you think? Oh, my B needs to go higher up. Yeah, normally your first finger on the violin, there's a tolerance for being out of tune. And they got to comment on which method they liked better. Did they like it when I played and then I played with them? Did they like it that when I played and then I shut up and they played with the metronome and we just kept the metronome running? Or did they like the canonic one? It doesn't matter which method they liked best. It's just an opinion. Were they together with me? So that actually, did they manage it? Did their internet? It's about including these students, I think, as much as possible. So, and then they turned their speakers off again. So we looked at rhythms. So we've looked at the previous one with scales is about tuning and warming up. And of course, the scale that I pick is related to the piece. And then we looked at rhythmic fragments. So that wee rhythmic fragment at the bottom there is from a piece called El Gaucho that Katerina Baker and myself would have used in an orchestra camp. And we'd vicious difficulty with getting the kids to play the last 4 bars together. And Kat, as inimitable as Katerina is, came up with, we are all together in this and we want it to work, so it will. Brilliant. You can count that. I'm not going to count that one because I'll make a mistake, but you can actually just say, okay, we're going to deal with 4 crotchets, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and I should be doing it with my violin. You can do it. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and I wanted them to notice bow placement. Where am I? What's the speed? Am I doing this? Am I doing this? So that our ensemble playing is based on bowed instruments doing the same speed of bow. You can see it. We don't need to play together to develop this observation skills. They can see the room. They were asked, this one really worked quite well. They were asked to show rhythms. They had their speakers off. So, and each one was asked so that, that's Dara coming in, Alan, that they were asked to show me with their speaker off, and then did somebody do it in the right place of the bow? There were praises given, well done, excellent, fingers up. We did dynamics for dummies. I'm the dummy, not them, okay, in which their speakers off and they were asked, so I couldn't hear them. The rest of the group couldn't hear them. So we were actually trying to work it as an advantage that we were online, in that they had to start and they demonstrated being really quiet, possibly crescendoing and ending up loud, or being really quiet, crescendoing and going quiet again. And the children actually had to say, I then said, okay, where do you think she started? Now we only had 3 options. You can start quiet or loud. MF is harder to discern, MP is harder to discern, but there was an element of them being able to demonstrate and have dynamics and therefore have a sense of ensemble playing. And again, the speakers were put back on again and they were asked, did you like the techie ta? Did you like the counting? Did you like the lyrics? It's only an opinion. And then for that final set of that section, I did piano reductions. I'm a basic pianist at best, and that so I produced a piano reduction and played a piece that they had done last year, so that they were playing along. They did have a sense of harmony, and they really enjoyed it. And we went at a very slow speed, we went at a nice speed, and we went at a ridiculous speed that they all fell about laughing because I made mistakes. And we fell out and we fell in, and we have always done an ethos in orchestra that it didn't matter if we made mistakes. And I would pretty much always, with a new environment or new group, I'd make a mistake on purpose so that it's egg on my face first. And did you laugh at me? No. Was there any problem? Did I burst into flames? No. It's okay. Were you cross with me? No. So we need to be able to make mistakes in any platform that we're working in. So I made them, yeah. Okay, so before the rehearsal, what I'd done so that they had as much support as possible, and what was I sent an online video. It's unlisted on YouTube. Yes, people could share around it. I'd rather they didn't, because this is in the middle of lockdown. I didn't have my makeup done. I don't have my makeup done now. I didn't have my hair done. I'm sitting in my office. At one stage of the game, my youngest son poked his head in, and I decided I'd been on a run of an hour's worth of videos, and I just left him in the video and said, there's Cormac. And in this one, I was trying, bad technological skills. I was trying to be really clever and put the music in the top corner, like do a visual embedding or overlay. And I nearly threw my computer out the blooming window trying to do this. I was, so I point, you'll see this, I point and go, and your music's here, never appears. And I just left the videos because I was doing so many of them that, and I think the kids again got to go, cheapers, what's she like, you know? So Alan, if you want to play it, we're only going to play 2 minutes of this, really, because you're all teachers, you all know how to do this, and you'll see that the production is really clumpy, but the kids appreciated I'd made an effort. Anyway.
Good. I'm just going to stop share and reshare because I don't know if I turn the sound on. So I'll do that. And
Okay.
then we'll press
Oh, and
play.
I can see everybody again.
Yes.
I'm sitting talking to myself, guys. They could all have disappeared.
Share computer sound. Okay, and here we go. So 2 minutes.
Hello, hello, and you're all very welcome to the Green Room rehearsals. These are the online support videos for Athenry Creation Orchestra, so you're very welcome. I'm going to be looking here because my music is on my music stand here, but I know that your music is going to be up there magically. So we're going to work through this. I am going to use a metronome on my phone so that I stay steady, so you can hear the metronome, and it has the first beat is a higher tone, and then the second and third and fourth are lower, so you can hear the first beat. Just listen. 1, 2, 3, 4, and if you were doing quavers, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, so let's look at notes first and then I'll play. So we have, okay, these horrible notes on the G string. So I'm looking at the first bar in the first line, and it's 2 fingers on your G string. And we've got a note and then 2 rests and then another note. So if we're counting, we'd have 1, I'll start my metronome, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and the hardest thing to do is actually practice counting out loud as well. Okay, next bar, you've got a block. The block is actually sitting on the line, it's mounted on the line, so it's a minim rest, so it's worth 2. So you're going to count in 2 beats. If you just show the end, that there was about 30 seconds, and I tried to do a banner at the end that they sort of giggled at and said, that's very Katharine. And a lift, and well done. I'll see you at rehearsal. Bye, guys. So essentially what you can see is that was our creation orchestra. I spoon fed them every bar. I then played through 4 bars for them to play with me. I then recommended that they place the space bar, work on those 4 bars until you've got them really beautiful, and then send me a wee WhatsApp and let's see how you're getting on, so that if there was any problems. What I did was I used that very slow way within the session. So we're back into actually the live online session, contradictory terms, to do bar by bar tutoring of a new piece. So the progress was incredibly slow. I felt like I was just extracting their teeth with a set of garden shears or something. It was, but everybody could do it. And I was watching around the room to see who was managing things and who wasn't. And again, this is where, I'm sorry, the string instruments are hugely easier, I think, than the wind instruments. But maybe that's because I'm a string teacher, and the wind teachers would say the opposite. At the end of the session, everybody was asked to put their speaker on, and they actually were asked to play individually. I was really careful to, like, we do this in group classes. I'm a Suzuki violin teacher. I think Suzuki is very adaptable to online settings, and the type of teacher training that I got allowed us to be sort of aware of groups. I'm very grateful for that training, actually. So I didn't ask a student who was weak to play the hardest bar. I asked, I gave them a safe bar. I did challenge students. If there was a student who was just absolutely on top of this, I said, okay, change your metronome marking. Can you do it faster? Can you play all 4 bars? I tried to put a dot beside, I had a list, and yes, Nikki, we used, I'll go through that chat stuff in a minute, but they were in sections of the same music. They weren't necessarily the same instrument, but it was the same parts they were being taught. And I put a dot beside the child's name every time I said the child's name, so that if I saw that wonderful little Grace, who would always giggle and chat and put her speaker on and put her speaker off, had 10 dots, and Harry had 1, I started looking at my how well I was actually serving Harry. But what amazed me was, despite the fact that the progress was really slow, what they did was really good, and everybody could do it. And they could engage as much as they wanted to with the offline YouTube, so that if they could control it. And if they did the practice the way I did on the video, well, that's exactly what I want. So I think their practice was better, and I think because I went slower, it was more effective. Less Darwinian selection of the fittest type teaching, and more inclusive. Okay, this is look at those beautiful kids. That's during the 2017 festival, Alan, with the kids that were in the photo shoot, but I love that photo. Okay, how did we have fun? We turned speakers on and off a lot, so that like, we are now 30 minutes without me having any feedback from you, and you're listening to me droning on. That's not how I do an orchestra rehearsal. We'd have had the speakers back on again every 6 to 7 minutes, so that we never went this long in silence. The opening discussion they liked, and I actually got the sort of really quirky ones. I got them to suggest the next week's discussion, because at some stage game I'm going to run out of ideas. Those debate type discussions, the neighbour's house that I'm in, they travelled they took a year out, and they drove, good grief, with 3 kids from Alaska to the tip of South America. And every lunchtime they did a discussion that was, a philosophical question, or it's like, wow. And what I did was, at the start of COVID, I started doing video calls with my mother every day. Oh dear, what did I start? I'm still doing it. And initially with the kids, because we didn't want to be talking about COVID, every student project was about COVID. Every discussion was about COVID. And that we wanted definitely to talk about something that wasn't COVID related. So for the first 50 days or something, my mum, my partner, who we were, he was down in Clare and got stuck in Clare, and I was in Galway, and my 2 boys were doing these debates with 2 people, on 2 different devices, and then the kids and myself round, and we sort of had a speaking stone to do it. But I thought that the adaptation of that we had done in our own household, it just was fun. It allowed us to chat. It's really dependent on tutors, on awareness, on the knowledge of individual personalities, and that, like, I'll talk about that later as well. In the older groups, like, what would happen normally in youth orchestra is you would have a break, and then the kids do go into, the nerds go into this one, and the goths go into this one, and the old fogies, Nikki and myself, have gone into this corner, and whatever else is going on. And we are looking at being able to have a breakout room, and you can do this logistically within Zoom, to say, listen, are you going to I don't know what you'd call them. I'm using colours a lot at the moment. I'm conscious, but you can go to the orange room, you can go to the black room, sort out whose friends are going where. I look at it. I think there's inherent problems with it. You could end up with a child in the room and they're on her own. You could end up with somebody talking about somebody else. They're going to see what she's wearing. I think it's laden with problems, and I haven't troubleshooted them. I've just identified the problems, which is pretty much my starting point. No, my ideal bubble is my starting point in any conversation of what do we want to do. We want to have orchestra all year, is my ideal bubble. How am I going to solve it? Okay, let's look at the problems first. So we are looking at that, but I'm not sure I'll go there. What was interesting, and this is the only time I've given you lots and lots of scripts, so I asked the parents to give us feedback. What was really interesting, look at those beautiful faces. How lovely. She enjoyed the session. Her confidence is the biggest issue, and the positive feedback was great and reassurance. My kids are enjoying orchestra online. I think as time goes on, children will find it easier. Oh, Zoom is quite exciting for young children. She was talking about the fact that her child never looked at me. So it was when I was demonstrating, he was just looking at himself, going, oh my God, I'm on screen, you know. So I couldn't get him to concentrate, and he looked like he had ants in his pants. He just moved all the time. I did have kids that just disappeared. They just disappeared off screen. It's like, and we've lost Amy, man down. You know, the boys loved orchestra, particularly older brother who enthuses more anyway, and I know that little brother loved it too. At this stage, we're all very used to the idea of Zoom and being part of a group, virtually speaking. They loved the social aspect and the chat because they've been starved of that for the past 3 months. The practice videos were spot on and really helpful. Our internet connection is dreadful, and I know, like this family, they really struggled through this. So I'm afraid even playing the scales and exercises were out of sync. I must have glitched. While the metronome would have kept me steady, if their internet was going blah, 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 they couldn't really manage it. But they did engage and they were enthusiastic. I'd imagine it could get frustrating for them over time. The timing of orchestra, the scheduling of orchestra was perfect. I think that it will get very frustrating for children over time. One of the reasons that we were trying to do this way rather than, I know that there are people around the country who are doing amazing stuff with Jamulus. I'm very conscious that parents maybe just pushed financially. They like I tried to connect to the Ethernet yesterday to actually experience it, and I ended up sitting on my honkers in my hall at the bottom of my stairs. It wouldn't physically work for me to be. Lots of people don't have a landline modem, all of those things. So I haven't gone down that path. If we were much longer, we might look at it. One parent actually copped on and said, so much more productive working in a section online than having all the sections together. Yeah. The pace of the session was great. There was a nice mixture of the students being muted versus unmuted, and we won't use that word with kids. My only suggestion would be to have a recording made of the other parts so that they're looking at, and actually there is a virtual, I've got these written down, I'll give you one. There are a set of people doing a virtual ensemble initiative in which they are constructing videos and music, and they're giving it away free, guys. How amazing is that? So I'll send links out to anybody, or Alan will manage that at the end. They're on Facebook, and they're very cool bunch of people. The overall effect was good, but like I hadn't said at the start, use earphones. Anything that we can do is makes it easier. An external microphone, earphones, all of that. But I did want to see whether we could just work with a laptop and a child. So the feedback was really positive. Didn't actually get any negative feedback, and at the moment I'm doing phone calls, as I said at the start, to all of our parents, so 330 individual parents, and I'm talking to them about orchestra and the fact that this is what we're looking forward to. And actually they're really I haven't had somebody say no, we're not coming yet. Now that said, do it for 10 weeks, it'll be probably a different ball game. but and it's taken 25 minutes to talk to each of the parents. So I thought yesterday I did 28 calls, and I thought, oh, my goodness, I only got 28 calls done. I got 28 calls done. Yippee! You know. So this is a general note on online teaching, and I've said all of this, that teaching more slowly, breaking a skill into the tiniest thing. So I actually managed, not with the orchestra, I managed to teach a child how to do up bow staccato. Now I know how I teach up bow staccato, but I actually would normally do, put your finger in underneath my hand and your fingers on top are not making any pressure, and then I'd chick 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 with my thumb, and I'd actually feel what she's doing, and of course I couldn't check that. So I did various different things of, can you do that without moving your thumb? Can you do 50-50? Can you make it that it would be 70-30? And we did lots of exercises that were just exercises. She didn't know what she was doing up bow staccato. And we did that for a week. And I said, how do you do? Can you do 50-50? Everybody can do 50-50. Can you do more on top than less on the bottom? Okay, now we're getting control. Excellent. Now could you do it that you pinch? Okay, take your fingers off, pinch. So it was really looking and going, if I have a skill to teach or notes to teach, then do a bar, do 2 notes, do the string crossing, go from a G string to a D string, show me your elbow squishing. But it's painful for kids who are on top of the material. So it's, I got to balance that. Providing backup material seemed to work really well. I know that all of us through this online teaching would have made extensive notes for parents, and it really doubled or trebled the amount of time that we were doing this, and there is a limit to what we can do. On a really positive note, I make progression projections in September for all of my students, all of my individual students, and some of my kids from March, like they were in online, they were in line with expectations, sorry, to avoid ambiguity, and then they flew. And I think, okay, yes, some kids had very much more time, but because I was sending a tutorial video for every piece or every section or every new thing, so they all got that little unlisted YouTube thing. And then if they did practice with that throughout the week, wow, they got it. Put your finger down. I want your finger to be on that corner, so that, okay, put your finger there, look at it, take them off, put them on, take them off. Really slow, but they could do it as many times, or they could just whiz through. And like I had got maths videos for one of my sons, and we watched them at treble 3 times the speed because they were just abysmally boring. So I think parents did that on occasions too, or just turned me off. So we're going to have a discussion. We're going to turn our speakers back on again, thank goodness, after this slide. Progression rates and quality. So I've said this, I think the quality produced was better than live orchestra. We're in sectionals. We went really slowly. There's no opportunity for the children to piggyback on the front desks, and there's actually no mucking around. Now I have sat in a big, huge meeting of TY students for one of my son's schools, in which a child who will be called Mikey Kelly, he's not called Mikey Kelly, disrupted the whole thing. He did arm farts, turned his speaker on, and the poor principal saying, Mikey, turn your speaker, and they're trying to mute and you can't, and the child, you couldn't get hijacked. It's not nice. It's just, yeah, I've no way of controlling that apart from a personal relationship with the child and the parent. And the YouTube demonstration videos were there. Oh, I did 40-minute sessions because we weren't paying for Zoom, and I did do a minute-by-minute plan for 10-minute discussion, 10-minute exercises, 10-minute new piece, 10-minute for the kids to play at the end. And one child just got lost, couldn't find it, and I lost an entire minute of time, which is huge, and we got zoomed out. So I needed to give more. I needed to spot, you can pop back again, Alan, because I'll go on to that in a second, that I needed to spot when a child was in bother quicker. So, you know, it says there I gave 7 minutes, and then I looked through my notes and went, it wasn't long enough. You can't rush things online. You can't rush kids normally. When, you know, I saw a beautiful Irish dancing teacher on one occasion grab a child by their upper arm, and I went, I'm not sure you're allowed to do that. You can't rush kids anyway. And this is where we are going to put our speakers on, and just, if we can look and see, all of us will have discovered things that work really well online. And I think that it doesn't matter whether it's a group context or an individual context, they are translatable. And it doesn't matter whether we're all doing the same thing or all doing different things. So can we go back up, take away that horrible slideshow, and we'll go speaker, or we'll go gallery view. Hello, and put your speakers on. Because then you feel different when your speakers on. Or do you?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Well done, Katharine, by the way. You're doing great.
Yeah, that's
Thanks.
great.
I talked a bit fast at the start, lads. I'm sorry. I was really nervous this morning.
That was super.
Oh.
Thank you, Yvonne. I think that was Yvonne. This is where it gets really interesting, because I've got two screens. Oh, hello, Dara. That's my son. Hello.
Hi.
Hey, Dara.
Okay. Dara's in Berlin, and he's going to be working with us. Kevin, I haven't said hello to you. I hadn't seen you at all. And I'm just, don't move. This is what annoys me. You move around. You know the way the screens just go blah, blah.
Yes.
It means it's really hard to get, like, normally we get children to sit still. Okay, I'm going to throw, this is where it starts to be a bit of chaos, because I don't want to ask individually. That's not fair, because I would be putting you on a spot, and I don't do that in groups. But somebody, please don't leave me in a silent room. Somebody say one thing that worked. So if you, go on, lads, risk it. Okay, Susie. Oh, nicely done. I didn't even think of raising a hand. There we go. We learn something new every day. Susie, how are you?
Okay, just going back to what you were saying about how to get the percussion side of things involved in the online orchestra. So we had a very clever drum teacher who told his student online how to make timpani at home. And it worked really, really well. And when we did, I don't know if any of you have seen the video that we did Inspector Gadget with the whole orchestra. So what he did was he turned 2 overturned saucepans over on toms, and he tuned the toms to the right pitch, so that the saucepans weren't the issue. It was the toms that were actually tuning it. And he used the ordinary batons. And unbelievably, it worked perfectly, and it sounded great. So that's just...
That's so cool. Okay,
it was such a great idea, yeah.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Susie. I really appreciate that. Next hand up. Come on, don't be shy. Yes, Avril.
Hi, Katharine. Firstly, thank you. This is an amazing presentation. It's so insightful. I suppose I'm just jumping on the bandwagon of your tutorial videos. From our experience dealing with orchestra and choir, I would have tried to do those myself as well during lockdown, and they were just really helpful, and the feedback from parents were like, oh, thank you. You know, so it's great to see other, you know, organizations doing that as well, and just the same feedback. And while it is really slow and very tedious, obviously in lieu of being physically there in a room, they're very, very helpful.
I thought that I couldn't agree with you more, Avril. I thought that the other thing that we were doing was that in general, parents would practice with students. Our parents would be very involved, and through lockdown, they were working from home, they were schooling their children, they were actually dealing with the worldwide pandemic at the start of it, when everybody was very fearful, and they were stretched to alls no more. And for me to say, and I want you to do half an hour's violin practice with your child, you know, go away. Whereas if the child could go off and essentially do guided practice, then the parent went, whew, I've done my job, you know.
Yeah, and I think it was even helpful, sorry, Katharine, just even setting the expectations for parents as well. You know, like if you did a video, like I remember doing a video on, similar to how you did it, this is how I expect you to be set up for a Zoom rehearsal. I did one of, for example, for our choir project, I know not orchestras, but it was, this is how you record yourself singing, you know, and very simple step-by-steps. And I think, again, while it seems tedious and very boring, very helpful. And just setting that expectation seems to kind of calm people. So we found that worked very well.
Yeah, I agree. Nikki, I see you. And I'll switch. I'm on screen 1 of 2. So if anybody that I can only see 25 at the moment, including myself. So and I'm conscious there are 33 participants. So I will flip there. And Alan, if you can, Bertie, if you help me with this one as well. Nikki. Hello.
I'm just am I on? I am, yes. I'm just I love the YouTube idea. I have no idea how to make a YouTube video. I really I struggled at the beginning and taught myself how to use Zoom and figured it out to a point, but I don't know. I only really know very basic Zoom, and I feel a little bit overwhelmed by the technological requirements. So I'm just wondering, is there some sort of support for how to do these things? Like what do I need to make a YouTube video, and how can I figure out how to do one?
Okay, Nikki, because I know you personally, I'll do that with you. We can Zoom and I'll show you. Okay, it's really easy, but it's terrifying.
It is
Even
like, yeah, I mean,
it's terrifying if you don't know where to start.
I feel a nervous rash coming on at the very thought, you know.
Yeah, you'd rather chew your own leg off or pull your own toenails out. Yeah, yeah, I get it. Kevin.
Hi, one of the things actually Lucy, that I did for my guitar students was I set up a Zoom call with myself. So I had I logged into the same Zoom call twice, and I had one was my phone and one was the laptop. And on the laptop you can record your Zoom calls as is happening here. And I had the phone pointing at my right hand and the laptop showing my face and my left hand playing guitar. Now, there was a little bit of a sync issue where they weren't perfectly in time, but for a demonstration video, I found the students found that really useful because they had a really close-up view of both hands. I would also use it in lessons where I would ask them to have the gallery view on in one-to-one lessons, and they would see two screens of me, so that I could say, look at what my right hand is doing, look at what my left hand is doing, and they had a really close-up view of both.
Okay, and now half of the people in the room actually have a rash coming on, Kevin, but that's really impressive.
Can I just come in there, Katharine, actually, because what Kevin has just said reflects, I was at a conference on web-based music teaching about 4 or 5 years ago, and the place that was like furthest ahead possibly in the world is Dumfries and Galloway in Scotland, which is in the Highlands. So kids get snowed in, their villages get snowed in during the winter, so they carried on music teaching. They have a peripatetic system where teachers go to the school. So they just had teachers teaching over, it wasn't Zoom, it wasn't Skype, it was like conferencing software. But one of the things was that they set up a multi-camera setup so that the teacher could see, the teacher had a mixer and the teacher could actually switch camera angles. So for instance, to look at embouchure, to look at fingers and stuff like that. So
how do you look at embouchure?
Kevin has come up with a simple way, because I mean lots of people have, you know, there's like numerous phones in the house and tablets and stuff like that. So that from a music teaching point of view, that's really interesting that can also happen potentially for students. I know access to devices has been problematic, but there are, you know, smartphones fairly much everywhere. So it's just a good thing to think about for those who are teaching instruments online, that if the students have more than one device and that they can actually get a multi-angle as well, it could be something really useful.
Thank you so much. Hey, Jer, how are you doing?
Hey, just a little bit of insight that might help you guys with regard to YouTube tutorials. My school that I work in is an iPad school, so when we shut down, we switched pretty quickly to doing lots of YouTube videos and Zoom classes and X, Y, and Z, all that different stuff. So like at some points, I was churning out 12, 13 YouTube videos a week across different things for music. But anyway, one issue that kept happening to me a couple of times that I don't think you mightn't think about is YouTube was flagging a good lot of my lessons as copyright infringement and taking down taking down my videos, even though they were unlisted. So that, like, for those of you who don't know, if your video is unlisted, you can only access the video by being sent the link to it or by being given the link to it. So nobody can search you up on YouTube. But even though they were still unlisted, YouTube was still flagging some of them as copyright. So what I actually discovered, some of it was, like, say we were practicing a piece, I don't know, whatever, Let It Be, say it was Let It Be Beatles. If that was in the title of the video, that, I think that's where they kind of infringed it then. So I was obviously without permission teaching Let It Be. The other issue, you mentioned the music up here. I got flagged twice by Hal Leonard for copyright because it's their sheet music, even though the kids have it. I was still making a video.
And we paid for it.
With their, yeah, it was paid for. That's the thing. But it's YouTube's, whatever their way of figuring it out. But anyway, so I just be cautious with things like that, because it can be annoying spending hours putting stuff together and getting it out there, and then getting messages back off kids and emails going, sir, can't access the video, or sir, it was taken down, or X, Y, and Z. So maybe if you're
inappropriate content, Jer.
But I don't know, maybe it's an idea if you're picking stuff and that to kind of stay out of the kind of more modern stuff to avoid any issues with that, like copyright law and stuff.
Was it that you could then get it back up again, or was it gone?
I actually got around. I got frustrated several times. So in the end, I ended up. It took a while. I ended up editing the video and compressing it to make it not as big in terms of space, and I ended up just having to send it to them on a different platform, one-to-one, which took forever. And it was only for certain.
And I'm a technophobe, so I've gone like this, like at the yes,
yeah. So
it's like not to teacher that went. I've constructed a song for you about online teaching.
Not to put you off doing it. It's just to be careful that you're not like you were saying earlier about preparing. Maybe prepare so that it's not gonna be stuff that's gonna be flagged.
Fair play.
As copyright.
Thank you so much. That's very, very useful. And I'll come to you in a second, because I had Magella who popped her hand up, and I had Dara. Hello, Magella. Yeah. It's lovely to see you again.
Hi, Catherine. Thanks a million. Great morning here. Just I did a bit of online teaching, with the orchestra, playing back to YouTube clips, or what we did in the festival in February. But the biggest problem I found was, you enter students, you bring them in, but I think I needed someone else to man the phone and to be, when students had problems. Has anyone any comments about that, having a second person in on your session?
Absolutely. Yeah, I had the same issue. I wasn't able to focus on all the children that I had in the room, and then I was ignoring children on the right-hand side that were waiting to come into the room. I found it very hard to do, I have to say. Yeah, I struggled with that.
Or you get students who just didn't come in on time. They might come in 10, 15 minutes later, and you're in the middle of trying to do something, and then you have to stop the whole session, and you just lose concentration.
I observed the sessions in St. Agnes's Adult Orchestra, and Joanna was very clever, as she always is very clever, that she did the administration and that the chittered. So that I can't afford that, but what we can do and what we are looking at is that a parent within each group will take over as co-host, and then they're doing that. They'll be in the room anyway with the little ones. It's much harder with the bigger ones. We'll look at this, because I do think, but it has to be a volunteer. You cannot have a page tutor sitting there to deal with the waiting list. That would be very difficult. Magella, we are good. Thank you so much. You're right. Yeah, thank you. This is that's very good. And Dara.
Thanks.
Dara, hi. You wanted to speak, did you?
Hi, sorry, I'm actually on the street. Well, I was going to add to what Kevin said.
I'll go to Anna and then I'll come back to you. Okay, fair play, Dara. He's sitting in Berlin. Hiya, Anna.
Hi. Just about something that Avril mentioned about, the choir, which is so important. But I think for any musician and students, about recording yourself and how important it is for you to listen to yourself. And sometimes because we have to do it, when you're a singer, you don't know how your voice sounds outside of your head unless you record yourself. So I do think that for any musician, it's so important not only to do that so you can hear what you're doing, but also to have that cringe kind of, you get used to doing it. Nobody likes to record themselves. Nobody likes to really listen to themselves when they play, because we always expect that we're doing something else, and it's not. Sometimes it's good, sometimes bad. But it's good to have that exercise, and it's good for them to see after a while, when you lose the fear and you get used to it, it's actually really good. You even, especially for singing, you can't see your practice in any other way but to record yourself. So I think it's a good thing that now they're kind of forced to do that a little bit.
They are. I do think like it's of huge benefit to record ourselves. I would be careful of the psychological well-being of the child, and that, like, I've recorded my orchestra for Alan when we had to apply, and I'd send you a recording, and I thought they were so good, and then I listened to the recording and went, oh my god, they're so badly out of tune. You know, and you go, so I know from some kids that did exams and that they recorded, the process wasn't fun. They got very self-critical, and music, okay, I'm seeing nodding, and Yvonne is saying, okay, you had the same experience. Music is meant to be fun. We are not meant to be critical about it. We are meant to be able to make mistakes and be fluid. And that if I feel very self-critical of myself and, oh my God, I'm crap, I don't want a kid going through that. I do want my really high flyers who can psychologically take this, critique themselves. I do want that, but I'd just be really careful about recording for and I'm only talking about my students, because I know I'm a weirdo with this. I just go, no, mind the wee ones. It's not nice to record yourself. Dara, you got rid of that.
Yeah, so just say what I'm going to say quickly, because I'm on the street and it's pretty loud here. I just wanted to add to what Kevin and Alan said. But one thing that I found really useful for instrumental teaching, or one of the challenges I found, is the sound quality of the instrument that you're playing. You can't control, obviously, what the student is doing, but you can control what you're doing. I find plugging an instrument that you can directly into an audio interface, I know the technical folks will find that too much, but people that can do that, I think it's far superior to using a microphone or using your laptop speakers. What I've been doing for piano is plugging a MIDI piano keyboard into my audio interface and using an automated sound. So that means the signal is coming directly from my laptop, and going to the person that's listening to it. It's much, much, much clearer. So they can actually hear what's being played without those glitches that you get from the audio.
Could you send that into the chat so that if anybody who wishes to engage with that amount of technical words in the one sentence can engage with it? Okay, one of the reasons I'm planning orchestra this way is that I haven't talked about technology. If I have to be able to deal with parents, and Dara, yeah, I'm your parent, and you know what I'm like. It's like, oh, please just turn it on for me. You know, so I
totally understand.
Yeah, I want to deal with the reality of the weakest parent technologically and not limit them. That's sort of where I was coming from. Okay.
Yeah, but it's not actually. It's not to do with the parent themselves. It's to do with the stuff that you can do. You can get a MIDI keyboard. That's something to be brought up again. But
that's actually true.
You can get a MIDI keyboard that just plugs into a USB. You don't even need an audio interface. It just plugs straight into your laptop, and then you can play. You could even use Sibelius as the MIDI file or the MIDI sample producer. I don't know. Yeah.
So you've just said it's not you. You just said it's not me. It's you, Mum.
No. It's it's not you. It's in control of the teacher, not in control of the parent.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You can give me a tutorial, Dara. Okay. Is anybody else? I can't see all of you. I am so sorry. I feel so rude. Any more questions? Shall I? Hello, Joanne. You're good. Okay. I know there's 17 questions in the chat. We will get to those. What we might look at is that we'll go back, just look at the end of the presentation, and then there'll be another opportunity to put your speakers on because it's different. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think it's screen 19, I think. Oh, you get to view all of it. So
this was. Yes.
Okay, go back to the repertoire one. Okay. So looking at, okay, trying to work out, I know how-ish it might work. What would be, what are you teaching? I think we need to do 3 or 4 parts maximum, and that in one room you have the children that are involved in one part. You can decide this. Most of our music has been programmed in over laborious hours into some sort of Sibelius, or and we can send music, we can rearrange stuff. We are creatives, but I think you teach one line, you could, and one rhythm in the room that you're trying to work in. The piece can be built so you can see the texture of that's the El Gaucho piece that Kat and I were working on. Top 2 parts are different notes but the same texture. I could manage that. The next 2 parts, and actually the third, the 5th part is the same. So you could technically take violin 1, violin 2, and the second cello part in the same Zoom group if you needed to. I think it's based on texture. I did have music that was divise, homophonic divise, and I just said, listen, all of you guys with your first name starts between A and Z, A and K, you do the top note. Anybody else, L to Z, you do the bottom note. And I demonstrated with both. So that, okay, I'm pretending I'm called Anna, and I'm going to play the top one. You all play along. So they did have a nice harmony. It worked quite well. They liked it when I did that. And then I pretended to be Zoe, and they played along as well. The viola part, the middle line there, and the 4th line down could be rehearsed together. They're actually sorry, you notice that my glasses are like playing a trombone. It's like in out focal distance. So they're exactly the same notes. But you can do that. I looked at just grouping the sections, and I did decide for the Creation Orchestra and our middle level Horizon Orchestra, because the numbers are much smaller, that I did look at just having 3 groups, and that we would be part driven, not instrument driven. So that I had violas, and I actually popped a couple of violas into the red room. It was more about the part and the pace of learning. So that Katharina talked about pace of learning last week as well, that there's no point in having a really slow, lovely viola in the red room, and the red room's going twice the speed of the green room. And I was looking at then watching that if the red room was going to finish a piece way in advance of the green room, that they actually had a piece that was entirely theirs, that's a little 2-part piece or something like that. It worked really well. It even my flutes and I had recorders in as well. But I know that I'm dealing with limited instrumentation, but the pieces we pick are always the issue. And the funny thing is, I normally spend the entire June picking repertoire and programming it for our orchestras. I haven't done it because we were up to our tonsils doing other things. I'm going to use stuff that I already have, because we're under time pressure, and that I already know will work, apart from my youth orchestra. Now, so the grouping, I've talked about this. You can consider looking at just the same instruments. I would suggest that you do consider ability level and pacing. And then from a social aspect, look at the friends, really look at the friends, and then look at your overall numbers in a group. I'm finding this is probably the biggest thing that I've coordinated with. There's 33 of you. I think anything that's going to end up in 2 screens is untenable. And that's where my and I wouldn't fancy. I had about 15 to 18, and I did manage it, but I know all of them. I know all their names. I'm not trying to remember names and search for them. The difficulty were timetabling, and we talked about that right at the start, and then tutors. Sometimes, like last year, I had a wonderful gentleman working with us, Emmett O'Connor. He's a pianist. He's not a string teacher. So can you do online lessons and demonstrate? Because you must demonstrate. Can you conduct? I don't know. I haven't tried it. We have somebody that is going to come onto our faculty that is going to try that, and she's well equipped. But the way that I was doing it was I was actually doing a demonstration class. I wasn't doing a conducting class. I wasn't counting because of the latency issues. And then you need to find tutors, and how do you gauge whether they will be suitable or not? What are your criteria that you look for? And again, timetabling, the logistics of this has been really very difficult. Just time consuming. So what we've done, this is Athenry Music School, and I'm conscious that, you know, all plans work, and sometimes you get curveballs in the middle of a plan. So previously what we did was the Creation Orchestra and the Horizon Orchestra worked at exactly the same time, 6 to 7 on a Thursday, and parents really liked that, because if they had multiple siblings in different orchestras, they just popped them in. We then had our youth orchestra and our camerata. Our camerata was a breakout group from youth orchestra, so they both rehearsed between 7 and 8:30. Sometimes the camerata were in youth orchestra, sometimes the camerata were outside and separate. I can't do that, because if I have the Horizon Orchestra and the Creation Orchestra happening at exactly the same time, I actually need 6 to 7 tutors, dependent on how many we separate these orchestras out into. I can't find 6 to 7 people who are all the right people and all available between 6 and 7 on a Thursday. Ugh. So what we've done is we've spaced things. We have Creation Orchestra between 5 to 6. We have, and the 3 rooms work at exactly the same time, so that there will be 3 tutors involved with Creation Orchestra. All of the rehearsals will happen 5 to 6. My hope is that when I can take a third of this orchestra into a room, that the other 2 people will continue teaching online and will circulate. What I did was, okay, and that's then the Horizon Orchestra is there. We will actually start at 5 past the hour and finish at 5:02, because my poor people involved, and you can see we have the wonderful Anna Carden hiding behind a violin. We've Dara. Anna's in Brazil, by the way. It doesn't matter where the person is. Anna worked with us for 5 years. She's taught many of these children individually and in groups. And I thought that was, like, I just went for my perfect people, to be honest, that I knew and that had worked with us before and knew these individual kids, because I thought that was it became a real priority. Dara, the camerata was set up for him, our Horizon Orchestra. He's the founder conductor. He knows an awful lot of these students. He's very experienced. Both of these people are multi-instrumentalists. Like Anna teaches our violin, viola and cello. Dara's double bass and cello and piano. And they've both got great sense of humor, and they'll have a giggle with the kids. And Sinead Hayes, who needs no introduction, fantastic conductor, the original conductor of Symphonic Waves, really good violin viola player, and a trad head. And what we've done is our youth orchestra is the most problematic group. So we've actually, why is it problematic? It's problematic because I have quite weak 15-year-olds in it. I have really good 15-year-olds in it. I've got people who are in the National Youth Orchestra of Ireland. I've got people that shouldn't actually have a violin under their chin at all. And it is an inclusive, non-addition based orchestra that I want to continue. What's interesting is some of the parents have said to me, this will suit the Shire children. They're not under pressure, and that in the circumstances in which orchestra was live this year, they would have dropped out. Whereas because it's online, they're going to get an extra year with this child because they don't feel under threat. And I did find that interesting. I do want to really look at where are our advantages. This, the reason that okay, so the youth orchestra, what I've done is I've 57 members. I've split it that 40 will be catered by myself and Anna and Dara. We will do entirely different pieces from the Sinfonietta, and the Sinfonietta is, God love Sinead, is grouped by pace. She's got 2 flutes, like these are the real high flyers of ours, 2 flutes, 10 violins, 4 violas, a saxophone and a double bass to deal with. But we're looking at, yeah, she said she'd do it. I phoned her. Will you take this on? And then I keep on throwing, like the saxophone player just got grade 7, and I went, oh my God, she can't be in anything but the Sinfonietta. What we're looking at, like the Holberg suite is pretty homophonic. She was looking at, she was looking at Sibelius little pieces as well. We can send some suggestions for repertoire, but it's more, you're just looking at texture and seeing, and she's fair play, Sinead. All of the, bye Susie, all of the, thank you so much for coming, that all of the tutors are pretty good technically. I'm not, as you're discovering. We are going to look at videos and things like that that we release. And if I can do a live concert, I'll do a live concert. But we'll try and work around it. So it's a really strong team. One in Brazil, one in Berlin. My very senior people will not see me at all. I think they'll be delighted. And they have a conductor that if it wasn't for COVID, Sinead Hayes would not be available to us. So there's another, and like the parents are going, oh my goodness, you've got Anna in Brazil and Sinead and Dara in Berlin. That's exciting. I can market this one. I know that's a dirty word, but I can sell this to parents. And we don't want the children to do a ghost year. I just don't want that. So I'm very excited by that team. If anybody, by the way, because my beautiful Anna has done one of her dreams. She's got her dream job in Brazil, and we didn't expect her to get a dream job during COVID. She's very clever. So she is going to tutor one of our orchestras, and possibly if we can re-timetable. So I've got a curveball last night. The Piranha came and went, I've got a job. It's like, congratulations. If anybody's up for this and you want to talk to me, because I'm not sure if we can reschedule things, we'll reschedule them to a Saturday. But if we can't, then I'm down 2 hours. So I'm going to take questions at the end. And if you pop on, so where you go, so there are tutors, and we've sorted our timetabling. I wanted all the rooms at the same time so that if we got back live, we could. Alan, by the way, I never complimented you. You're doing such a great job. This is the only one. This was only for me, so that you could see where my figures came from. But essentially, the school needs to find double the amount of money to pay our tutors. We must pay our tutors well, and this is really hard teaching. I need a minimum of 10 in there. Our kids pay €50 per term. That's essentially a £5 per class. So I need to have €50 coming into a Zoom group to be able to pay my tutors appropriately, and to pay, but I haven't paid anybody for preparation time, scores, sound production, video production, online platforms, internet. It's really costly. I did do a little bit of messing around with timings. Normally the youth orchestra would be 90 minutes and the Sinfonietta would be 90 minutes, and I've pulled those down to 60, and that's why I've only ended up with twice the amount of minutes of tutors. But if a tutor is sitting and she's got a 10-minute break, I'm going to pay for the 10-minute break, because I've just sucked the marrow from their bones in the last 50 minutes. So essentially somebody's getting a block of time that they will be paid for, but it's just a consideration. So that's my cost implications. Okay, we're nearly there, guys, and then we're going to have a lovely time for chatting. Online product and performance. What are we going to produce? These are the considerations. This is not my, like, none of this is anybody's area of expertise. This is just a set of ideas that we're going to try. They're going to be videos. We know this. So if you can make them yourself, that's great. If you can't, there is a cost involved. If you can make them yourself, then you've got the expertise. Very cool. Design. I said at the start, I think we're going to zoom out in the Zoom boxes. I don't know, pictures from the children, like Christmas pictures, film, like get them to send them in so that you don't have to actually line up the video as well as their sound. Might make it easier. We've changed, I don't know whether any of you noticed, you'll see him in a minute. We've changed our logo, and Jenny got a little orange cello guy, and we've changed him, and he's got a little mask on. So we're looking at, and we've got one with a sanitizer, and we've got one that there's lots of bubbles coming up for hand washing and things. And you'll see the 2-meter one that's very sweet below this, the last slide. We're looking at maybe trying to do a cartoon, that the guy that translated my ideas, because it was the logo was originally an idea of mine or a concept, but I can't draw. So David did them for us, and looking at a cartoon that he might do a little bit of silliness with physical distancing amongst cellos or something like that. Getting recordings from members in a timely fashion. We're actually going to work out a way that they don't send these in independently. We do it in an orchestra session. So that one of our choir directors worked out a way that worked for an adult choir. I'm quite happy to share that. I'd need to ask her first, but if I'm sure she'd be fine. So that essentially they're recording while they're on mute and earphones. It does take 2 devices, and all of us start screaming. Recording quality, that's a problem. We just got to deal with it. The process can be upsetting. We've talked about that. And how do we present the material? Is it pleasing? Like, I'd love to get somebody to do drone footage of Athenry, and do that, or pictures of Athenry at Christmas. It's really picturesque, and that we key in with our locality, and because a sense of place is important to me, but that's a personal one. So, and then lastly, I had a bit of fun to see him 2 meters. So he's going, okay, until we meet again, look at, this is a recap, and then I actually have one slide. Look at the family's logistics. So I've gone down every single one of my families and thanks Kevin, everyone, to see, will this work? I phoned the ones that, like somebody, the parents were brilliant. They said, sure, she could go every other week. We're doing a live lesson at 6 o'clock. She's meant to be in orchestra at 6 o'clock, and we live half an hour away from the music school. That's not going to work. But sure, aren't we? I'm doing bi-weekly lessons online with some kids. And they said, sure, every other week is fine. Send us the videos. They were really good about it. If possible, my priority was to work with existing or past tutors who know the organisation, the style, and most importantly, the children. That it's hard enough to get to know 10 kids. Like, how many different kids do we have new in September? Get to know their names, and they're sitting still, and they tend to wear the same jumper every week. These kids are popping around in boxes, like, I don't know, Jack in the Box, you know, on steroids. It's like, oh, lads. So it's easier if people do know these children. I think that the repertoire consideration may be shorter, maybe, like, definitely a limited number of independent parts. But I think that this is a baseline of what I experienced that we could do in those 12 pilot sessions in June. And I think all of us are going to get better at this, and we're going to find, actually, I can do more complicated music. You know, we've all developed ensembles that we start really, really basic, and then we get better as tutors, and it opens up. Ask the students what they think. If, like, I would do that a lot. I maybe invited a wee bit too often. I am careful what I ask them, I ask questions like, do you want to wear red socks or blue socks? I don't ask them whether they like things. You know, take it now and like it later. I don't ever ask, yeah. So don't invite things you don't want the answer to. Balance the speakers on and off. Use a metronome. Go slowly, leave extra time. You can see all this stuff. Warn the students in advance. Now this worked really nicely, that they're going to play a few bars solo. They paid attention. I had talked to any of the shyer kids to say, don't worry, like I'd done it separately, independently. Don't worry, I won't ask you a hard bar. Send the tutorials that everybody is agreeing with, and I'm very impressed with the amount of work everybody's doing. Okay, I haven't done this. Do a rehearsal video of all the parts. I know that Kevin will suggest something to be able to do this. Kevin works with the music school and the guitar. He's the head of our guitar department. Have a performance schedule. So we're actually, oh God, going to do 9 videos at Christmas. We normally do the 9 lessons and carols. It's called a Union of Voices. And what we're going to do this year, so that I can talk about it with parents, is we have 9 ensembles. Each of them will do a short video. And I haven't organized this, but I'm going to get a writer from Athenry to read something nice and positive and non-COVID related. So that it is doing, a Union of Voices is meant to be a community event. So it's sort of like Sunday Miscellany, 9 releases every day, the 9 days before Christmas. I was looking at 12. I know that the numbers I meant to do is 12, but sod off, lads, 9 is plenty. And then make the best of things. And I apologize, the last slide here is what we've done to sort of solve things with our youth orchestra. I'm really excited by this. We have had a composer in residence since, oh my goodness, 2010, I think, 2009. And I heard a piece by Philip Hammond that was a children's cantata called Finn McCull. And it was, he'd written the lyrics, they were really age appropriate. It was for piano and voice, but it was kids singing, and it was single line. And I went, ooh, I wonder, could our choir, we've got choirs, could our choir do that? And I would do real cheeky. He taught in a primary school with my dad years and years ago. So I phoned my dad and said, would you ask Philip to give me your phone number? And I actually gave him a buzz and said, would you be interested in discussing something for a commission? But you got to design it to be delivered online. So you can only have 4 different textural parts and blah, blah, blah. And it can't have any writs because you can't slow down online. And we mightn't know that the wind's in tune, and we can't rehearse together. But apart from that, it's all swimming. So he actually came down. Jonathan, I was really impressed. Came down last week. And we had an idea to try and work a piece around the mythology of Athenry. So we went with the local historian, 3 separate cars, of course, and looked at ring forts. And did you know that the fields of Athenry are low? Do you know why they're low? Because they were flattened for Queen Maeve to count her pigs. Isn't that so cool? So yeah, so we're going to get Philip, his delivery date is December, so that we can review it. And this will be our piece from December to April. So I'm chuffed that we can continue that. And we'll get something that's actually really designed for these children within these settings. If it's a case that we can roll this live, oh my Lord, I will be rolling it live. Okay, thank you so much. I'm going to go through this chat. I'm conscious I want to stick to time. We've 20 minutes. I'm really impressed with this. Okay, wow. I'm now not able to see any of you because I'm just pulling up these. Actually, could I suggest to, sorry, Alan? Hello.
Yes, yes.
Would you like to read the questions so that I can actually concentrate on, like I know we don't make eye contact. Nikki, I'm looking at you now, and then Kitty, I'm looking at you. It's really hard to get a sense of direct communication.
Okay, so
oh, brilliant. Oh, you sorted how to show it. I'm gonna, okay, I'll go through it because I'll try and paste this. Are we recording these meetings? Yes, we are. It'll be sent to you. Yes, me too. You wanted to know whether we're recording it, Nikki? There, guys, put your speakers on. Go on, risk it.
It was when you mentioned Katharina's, I actually didn't know that she was doing one in chamber music last week, and
Okay, Alan, you'll deal with that. Yes.
Yeah.
And Sinead has already answered you. I beg your pardon. Is everybody looking? Yes, we answered that. Yes, everybody's listening to my metronome. They can hear me. I couldn't hear them. Was everybody present at this, doing it by section by section? We've now clarified that. Elizabeth, thank you. I just bought a 20-meter Ethernet cable to connect, so you weren't sitting in your stairs like me, like a buck Egypt. Okay, bought a pair and a plug socket. We'll send this out. Alan, can we cut and paste the stuff that people who know about this stuff are sending in really helpfully? Could we send that out as part
yeah,
of our
the chat will be
follow-up?
saved, so we can.
Okay, Sophie, I'm so sorry your mic is not working. I'm so with you on this. My internet's not working. I'm in my neighbor's house. So I'm with you. Michelle said, so her video is off, and I really appreciate that. And June said the same thing. Ooh, Society of Music Education in Ireland are going to run a series of get-togethers to share information and tricks. That's excellent. We might, we'll look at that as well. Set up Google Drive, Susie said, and that does work very well. If you don't want videos that Jared said, they get flagged, that might be a way around it. We do need to watch copyright. We do. Did you have to buy space? That's Uta. Susie? Did you buy space? I've got to buy space for Google. It's only $1.99 a month or something. Or
Yeah, she said that. She answered that. It's $2.99.
Thanks, Uta. Okay, I haven't. You see, I haven't been watching this. Here's the thing. Why don't we try it this way? She says, learning on the spot. Any of your questions that you asked that haven't been answered in the chat, what about that? And anybody not, any of your questions not answered? And there's that deadly silence. I had a nightmare about this last night. Or it's like, oh my Lord, do somebody say something? No, that's fine, Catherine. There is if you're team teaching, I think that's a real point, by the way. You can support your team member in Zoom the way you'd support them on a live thing. Okay. I've got Elizabeth here. Can you enable more talented students to mentor the weaker ones? They could be mentored in this. Could it be good training and problem solving? It could indeed. When I was in school, Gwendolyn was a couple of years ahead and the leader of the school orchestra. She once did a master class with us second violins, which I loved. We had more expectations that we could do things than the teacher, and also the knowledge of how to troubleshoot. You're right. I'm going to think about that. I'll think about the child protection issues with it, because you leave a bunch of kids, you're facilitating a bunch of students in a Zoom room, you'd need to supervise it, because you wouldn't leave a bunch of students in a room in a music school unsupervised for any length of time. I think that's mighty. It could be a way of solving, it could be a way of actually creating something special. I think that's brilliant. Okay, Magella, if you can socially distance in a big, well-ventilated room, will orchestras be back live? That's a personal decision for each separate orchestra director. If you stay under 50 inside, you're staying within guidelines. I think we do a risk assessment. Everybody has to do a risk assessment and look at the impact on families. If you have 50 people in a room and one person does have COVID, are all of those 50 people classed as close contacts? Are those 50 families being expected to quarantine one of their members of family? And that is a bit of a nightmare for them. I use nightmare very rarely, and a relation and marketing problem for us. So I would be doing things that balance safety and business interruption and impact on individual families if things go badly. What do other people think about this? This is not what this presentation is about, but it is worth discussing, because ideally we'd all be back. What do you think, guys? Or you think nothing, or somebody support me?
Well, I just want to say, we're talking a junior orchestra about 20 and a youth at 35 max. So I'm just trying to get my head around going back
I think
with small numbers.
Okay, I think that what we're looking at is a situation that we don't have a crystal ball. But what we think may happen is that there will be localized lockdowns again. And that we think that under those circumstances, we will not be able to do orchestra. And where I was then coming from was that could you switch from live to online? I don't think that if you pick repertoire, and just be aware that if somebody's in their kitchen and you're running a tap, we can all hear you, no matter. Okay, so that it's like I do a concert in a room in which you can hear when somebody's peeing, and one of our tutors said, "How do you know?" What was the joke, Kevin? With the how do you know when the can you hear? Why can't you hear a pterodactyl in the loo? Because the P is silent. So just beware of that. I think that you've got to look at whether you create a plan at the start of September that when we shut down, can you continue?
It's very good, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry. It's rotten. It's really tough. Hi, Regina. You're welcome. Now, I can't hear you, but you're not muted. So that horrible word. And everybody just flipped. Hello.
I think Beth had her hand up there. Yeah.
Thank you, Ellen. Beth. And we'll come back.
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for all this. It's great. I'm just wondering, as someone starting to take over a group in September, I'm not going to know any of the kids at all, which is quite a hard situation to go into. And because the other job I do is with Music Generation Wexford, and we set up a thing called Blackwater Bows last September. And again, it was all beginners in small groups. And we tried to carry on online, but they'd only been learning 3 months, so it was really, really difficult to do. Kind of with both of those sort of my teaching jobs, both of them are going to be quite challenging. Has anyone got any advice on and how to do this if you actually don't know the people that you're teaching?
Okay, what we've done with our individual teaching and is that if a person was we don't have enough rooms at the moment because of a premises issue with the ETB building not being available to us, and I think that that's affecting music schools throughout the country. I have control over 8 rooms, and we've 22 faculty in Ireland, and that I've got a red team who will be in week 1, a blue team who are in week 2, and if I was dealing with a new student and a new teacher, they're on the purple team. They're my specials. I would see under big safety distancing, all of the COVID stuff, and like Music Generation will have this planning done for you.
Yeah, it's more with the taking over the youth orchestra.
Could you get small groups in front of you? Because
yeah, well, I've sort of
my instinct is
suggested doing like down to sextet or octet sort of sizes, and just to try and have them in a room, because I'd feel better doing that, but at the same time it's wanting to feel comfortable safely and all that.
I think it's more about a capacity for you to police them and for them to be in control of their own environment. I think a quartet and octet, you could, but that's timing for you.
Yeah.
Anybody
maybe
any other ideas?
Oh.
And just give us a second. Kevin, hi. I see you, Avril.
Hi, Beth. Maybe you could go with the idea of bringing in a section each week. So say, depending on how many sections you have in your orchestra, maybe your first violins might be in live 1 week, and you could still still do the other ones remotely, the way that Catherine's been showing us here. And then the next week you'd have a different group in live, so you're actually getting that face-to-face time with each group, at least maybe once a month or once every 6 weeks or whatever it might be. You'll gradually build up that relationship, and they will get to know each other as well, because they may not know each other either.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Yeah. Good idea.
But I have a request of everyone here actually. It's something that we've asked out to our member orchestras, and no one seems to know someone appropriate. we're actually trying to find someone who is an expert in health and safety who also understands what we do. So if anyone here has someone who's working with them who has a grasp of both, please do let me know.
Yeah, I actually interviewed someone on my my podcast recently who's oh god, Peter Jordan. He actually helped get all the arts centres in Ireland reopened and stuff.
Yes, I've been in touch with him, and he's just busy now. He's too much work, so he doesn't really want to do anything for us. He has helped with the concert orchestra, I think with the Ulster Orchestra.
Yeah.
With those, but yeah, he's not available to work for us, unfortunately.
Okay.
I'll see. I might have somebody. Alan, he's a parent, so he's had 4 kids in a music school. He'd be pretty aware of what we're trying to do. Avril, you had your hand up.
Yeah, it was just, I suppose, just to help Beth, kind of building on what Kevin had said already. I do think the sectionals is a great idea, and I've been chatting with an amateur adult orchestra that I'd be involved in about maybe looking at that as well. But I know there's a whole kind of different other sets of concerns with an adult orchestra. But Beth, what I would maybe suggest is, because you're brand new, and just jumping on what Katharine has shown us, is maybe doing a poll to parents as well, or maybe even just doing a Zoom chat like this for them to get to know you also, and so you can understand maybe individual families' backgrounds, and see what they're comfortable with, or just having a discussion, because that's, Katharine, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but that seems to be the main thing, is just chatting about this and seeing what works and testing different theories.
Yes and no.
I suppose that maybe the thing I'm saying is that don't be afraid to get it wrong, maybe at the start as well.
I'm gonna, I agree with talking to children, and I'll listen to children. I won't ask them anything that is going to scupper my plan.
Sorry, I mean parents, sorry.
I know that, but I actually don't ask parents. I give them freedom to choose.
Okay.
But if that sounds awful. We were taking a bunch of kids to Brussels, and the Paris attack happened in November, and we were going in February. And what we did was we came up with a strategy that was the safety measures, that if the Department of Foreign Affairs status changed in between when we announced our strategy in December to when we were going in February, then we wouldn't go. We did an information meeting for parents, not ask them, should we go? We said that what I did say was we should not let our kids live in fear, and that if we do that, we actually heighten the power of terrorists. One person dropped out, but I didn't give them a choice, because you will get extreme views that within a Zoom group, you'll get one parent saying, well, I don't think it's going to work. And they feed in subliminally to your parents. So I'm doing a Jedi thing with all of my parents at the moment. We're not doing a ghost year. We are not serving our children by doing a ghost year. Okay. Because I know from a financial point of view, we all need our jobs. From a music school point of view, if we lose a certain percentage of our students, it's sudden death. It's not I'm struggling, it's we're gone. So I'd be careful about that. I think, Beth, go for it. Try them on Zoom, try them live, do mixtures, do your backup. If you're energetic and you phone these parents or you invite it'd be absolutely fantastic. We'll do anything we can. If you need repertoire that's adaptable or Sibelius-y things, or
the boss has just arrived. You can ask him.
Hello, David. How are you?
Hi guys. I've been listening very attentively. I enjoyed the presentation. So I've been taking a lot in. I'm conscious of what Beth is saying, that it is a big challenge to take on. Getting to know a new orchestra in these conditions. And I've had a few ideas leading up to this, but I kind of wanted to run a few ideas by Katharine. For Beth, given that it's new, in my mind, I'm trying to make it kind of as simple and effective for everyone as possible. But I'm especially thinking of Beth here in this, that if she's coming into school, she could have new students teaching one-to-one, and I don't think that would feel as daunting as getting to know an orchestra. So if we took some key elements that you would do teaching a new student anyway, And we designed maybe for the first several weeks of the orchestra's rehearsals that it was kind of broken down into some of the key kind of rudiments of playing in an orchestra rather than trying to tackle repertoire straight away or anything like that. I took some notes from what you're saying, Katharine, about what you focused in on in rehearsals, which I thought was great. And you sort of broke down some key simple elements of rhythmic notation and how to interact with it. That if we designed, as I say, a kind of a series of weeks for Beth or with Beth, that it might be literally, I know it sounds really basic, okay, but the first 2 weeks could just be some joint rhythmic work, like you're working on a scale or something like that. There's just some aspect of that, bringing in some bowing, and that maybe is, it's either the whole rehearsal or a time section of it, and we move on to a different topic so that there's a bit of variety to it. But that's spread out over maybe 2 or 3 weeks. And then there's bringing in some aspect of dynamic working. And again, Beth can kind of pre-prepare maybe some short sort of snippets of videos of what she wants to kind of achieve with it, and the kids can get used to it. And then other aspects to it, Beth, we've already kind of talked about this on the phone, but we want to sort of talk about a lot about the culture of our orchestra, which has been very, very good. We want to maintain that. So we could literally have a workshop which introduces you, Beth, but also talks about what the sort of mission statement, if you like, of the orchestra is going to be, what involvement we want from the students themselves. We want to have some key kind of mentors in the older students, mentoring some of the younger students, what the role of the leader is, and what our vision for it will be over the next year or so, because this thing isn't going to go away. Get through the winter at least. So there's bringing in, maybe starting off talking about sort of the culture of our orchestra, what our mission of sort of vision of it is, involving the kids in the design of that, because I kind of did something like that last year or maybe 2 years ago with them, and it was very, very good. But we're going to have some new members now as well, some senior people leaving, going to college. So we kind of need to refresh that. But it's a great way to introduce Beth in that capacity. But to take some of the key elements, I'm repeating myself here a little bit now, rambling on a bit too much, but taking some of the key elements that you would sort of on individual lessons anyway, Beth, as if you had new students anyway, and trying to take some of those key elements into how we start the orchestra and review it as we go. But I don't think you're going to have a big problem. I think you're going to be extremely popular, and they're going to be excited to have you.
I second that. I think you're just going to be great. I think that's very valuable, David, that to remember that we do have an ethos, we do have belief structures around how we want, like I teach children, I happen to teach them music.
Yeah.
So that's always been my ethos, and that you know, we have a rule in the music school that says that you can only be cross with the child if you've given birth to them. So that, because it's not my job to be a parent for somebody else's children. I'm actually not only standing on their toes, I'm in their shoes. So we got to work out a way that we use language that is a positive, inclusive way of getting the behavior we want. But we don't get cross. I do say, listen, lads, and occasionally if I have 50 teenagers in front of me, you'll hear a roar out of me. You know, but I'm not directing it at any individual. And it's I think parents are very reassured by somebody who has a very clear vision. This is how we're going to treat your child, because it's the child first, then it's the music. So I thank you, because I'm gonna steal that and remember that we do need to discuss our ethos, and like I only have 2 or 3 rules in orchestra, and one is we do not laugh at somebody ever. I'll take you apart if you do. You know. I think that's when I don't get cross, I just get serious.
Yeah, I think that's really, really important. And I think for us to communicate with parents that we're actually managing, say for me, we're managing Beth's expectations, because I know Beth would be naturally very kind of ambitious. And in this current environment, I think we have to kind of manage our expectations a little bit and what's expected of us, but also to communicate that to the parents as well very clearly, that this is kind of the sort of projected plan that we have for the next term maybe, and this is how what each kind of rehearsal focus point is going to be. And if we're covering those things, we are making progress, but it might feel a bit slow initially, but it will yield some results. And as long as we're communicating about that, I just think most parents have a lot of buy-in.
Yeah. What instruments do you teach, Beth?
Violin and viola.
Okay. Can you bluff? Like, I'm a cello bluffer. Nikki knows this.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'd be able to sort of direct on cello and bass and stuff like that, but it's more of a wind I'd be terrified of.
Yeah.
Like Geraldine will be in it.
Hey, Alan.
Good. Okay. So we're just at 1 o'clock now, so we
are.
can continue the conversation, but I'll do the wrap up now, so anyone who is expecting or needing to leave for 1 can go. So thank you very much, Catherine. That's fabulous. It's also Catherine's first PowerPoint she ever made, so it's a very pretty one.
Oh, apart from Cormac's art project during lockdown. Thank you very much.
So it's very good, and so there
you never
will be
tell somebody it's the first time you've done something. You never admit that, Alan. I've done
I do
loads
afterwards,
of
you
them.
know, it's been great, you know. So I would also just like to thank the Arts Council for their ongoing support. They've been very good with us this year, and so just to acknowledge that. We also have in 2 weeks' time and in 3 weeks' time, so this day fortnight and the week after, we will have sessions on Janulus, which is audio only, almost real-time rehearsal software. So we will have, in 2 weeks, we'll have a session just talking about it and how to set it up, and then the week after we will actually have a live rehearsal. So people rehearse on Janulus. We will somehow grab the stream into Zoom. So they'll show themselves getting set up and rehearsing, and then have a discussion afterwards. So, you know, I mean, we're not getting back to normal anytime soon. So insofar as we can use the technology to progress and to enhance and replace as necessary anything else that we do, that would be really useful. So we're helping on that, and we'll also hopefully have some sort of guidelines for those who do choose to go back to orchestra in the real life. So that's it for me. So now for anyone who's expecting to go and wanting to go now, you can hop out, but the conversation probably has a little bit left to go here, so it's stick around too. Okay.
And I want to reiterate thanks to all of you for coming so that I didn't have to face my nightmare of an empty Zoom room. Thank you so much. It's like the recurring Leaving Cert one. It's just now a virtual room, and say God bless if anybody's going. What do you think of keeping in communication? Like, what I'm very concerned about is that we're not in competition. None of our orchestras are in competition. So that a good idea, and we have a local stretch, like the people who like our Facebook feed are parents. They're my parents. So it doesn't matter whether we end up doing the same video as another orchestra, because it doesn't really matter. So we can share ideas. You know, we're not standing on each other's children or toes. There's more than enough kids for all of us, as long as we do this right. So I think I'm quite happy to share anything. What do you think? Hey, Yvonne, you're sitting there, and I think your speaker's on. So go on. I've just volunteered you.
Oh yeah, thanks. Well, it's an accordion orchestra. I have actually. It's not strings at all, but all of ours are more chamber orchestras, so we'll all be able to go back in person in 3 weeks' time. But it's nice to actually have the other option, so that when we're doing the timetable, I haven't done the timetable yet, but when we're doing the timetable, in case we do have the lockdown, that we have the timetable set up, that we can just go smoothly from transition straight from one into the other. You know, so that's been fantastic. There's just I got all the tutors to do. There's if you go online, there's a HSE and a WHO certificates in COVID management. You know, cleaning things like that. So they're very, very easy to do. So I got all the teachers to do them. You get a certificate at the end, then send the certificate by email to the orchestra address. So I have it all now on file that everybody has done these COVID protocols, so that they know where they're at, you know. And then the other thing I got involved with was actually which might be of interest to any composers or people like that. I got involved with a thing called the Global Accordion Project Orchestra, which is based in London. And the director of the London Accordion Orchestra was the person who was doing it. And basically what he did was he sent music out to anybody who wanted to get involved, and we all learnt it. He sent a click track, we all played it, sent it back, and there was this video done. And he did this twice or three times. Obviously there was no cost involved or anything like that. It was just purely to get people playing. So you had people from New Zealand and China and Brazil and all over the world playing, and he put this up then on their Facebook page. But obviously as a conductor, he was ready to go in. His next job was conducting an orchestra in the West End Theatre for what's your man's name, Dire Straits, the guy who fronts Dire Straits, a musical. So like all his income is gone, obviously, because he's nothing like to do. So he actually got people to commission him to write a piece. So for instance, he wrote this piece, and if you wanted to play on the recording of it and get the music, but you gave him £25. If you wanted a lesson with him and whatever lesson with him and then play on it, it was £50. And then so you were a bronze commissioner if you were 25, you were a silver commissioner if you were 50, and then for £100 you got a signed copy of the score plus your lesson plus the taken part. So he composed the piece and then sent it out then to everybody, and then everybody did the recording. Again, he sent a Sibelius file of it out so that you could hear it, and then he did another version of it with the part that you were playing at a higher sound level so that you could hear the part that you're supposed to be playing. Then you put on the earphones, you played along with the click track, sent it back, and then all of a sudden this was all put together. So he ended up making some money out of it. I thought it was a very good idea for somebody in his, he doesn't really teach, so his whole income was gone, you know. He's the keyboard player with O'Neill Hannon, what you call them, the Divine Comedy. He performs with them, and he also conducts as well. So his income was totally gone. So I just thought it was an idea for somebody, you know, if people were there and they're composers and their income is gone, it could be an interesting opportunity for somebody. So.
I would be. That sounds wonderful, and I'm like an accordion orchestra. How cool! You know? So. What I am conscious of is, you know, Katharina and I have a school in Athenry, and 20 miles away there's a school in Gort. Joanne caters in Galway. We normally all respect each other's practices, and that if a student from a different school approaches ours, we have an etiquette to say, there's a year before we can take you, unless it's a second instrument or something like that. I don't want, and even within the school, and I know all of us are very conscious of this, and hugely respectful of each other, that even within the school for a violinist to make a request to change teacher. So I personally have made the decision I won't be doing a, wow, we can teach anybody anywhere, like we're teaching online anyway, because this will pass. The Spanish is the Estevez Pizarra. This will pass, and we have to have relationships with each other that are respectful. So I'd just be careful that we don't go doing something that's now and we don't think of it. Interestingly, I'd want the recording to have the parts that I want the student to play at less volume. I don't want them piggybacking.
I think he was a bit.
Yeah, no, he was doing the success of the project, and I get that. But if I was actually looking in the longevity of a year in which I have 4 parts, I'd get them to drop out. The virtual ensemble initiative has already done the videos. Have a look, guys. And it just takes it out, but I like that much better. Okay.
One thing to solve the whole recording or playing along with the recording thing and which part should be louder or quieter is to send out something like a MuseScore file. And then with a MuseScore desktop app, you can go into a mixer and turn up and down each of the different parts. So you can have them isolate, just hear their own part and learn it along with it. Now, the problem with that is that it is a MIDI file that they're playing along with, so it doesn't sound as good. But then they can also mute their parts and turn up back up the other ones, and they can also vary tempo and do all of those sort of changes. It's quite easily done through the settings of MuseScore. And so they can practice along with the piece at various tempos. They can speed it up, slow it down if they know that.
I didn't think of that. Nikki, hi.
sorry, I can't hear what you're saying. Through what? It's a program, or what is it you're describing here that can do all these things? I don't hear the.
Sorry, Muse Score. It's notational software, very similar to Sibelius, but it's freely available online. There are Android and Apple apps available, but you have to pay money for those ones. But
Okay,
the desktop app is free.
Kevin, your 1 second. Your sound is really quite unclear, love. Apologies.
Turn off these headsets and maybe the battery.
Give me a second, because Nikki, it's a program that is like Finale or Sibelius, and it's called Muse Score. Okay.
Oh,
so
I'll type it here in
1 second, Kevin, because your sound is gobbly. I'm sorry, and I've been in that position. MUSE, and Kevin will type it in. Okay. But okay, it's a free program. It lets you put music in, like you put dots in, manually from, you know, we can chat about this if you need it as well. And essentially it produces printed music, but it also can produce a recording of what you've put in. Okay. All right. Now, I think it's time to go and have some lunch, lads. Absolutely. Amy, it's not. Hi.
Just before you go, can we get some sort of link or something to the virtual ensemble stuff, like that's been mentioned a few times as well?
I'll send it. It's on Facebook.
It's on Facebook, okay. Great, thanks.
There's a hello, Sarah. It's lovely to see you.
Catherine, I'm in and out. I'm sorry.
You're all right.
But I will watch the video again. Thanks for that. The bits I caught were really lovely.
Thanks, love.
So I'm presuming when we get on, Catherine, that we'll be able to see the slides as they appeared on the. Can you hear me?
Sinead says yes.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
Well,
yeah,
it's recorded the whole, and then Catherine is a little thumbnail.
You could leave me out. It's all right.
No choice now at this point, I'm afraid.
You're looking good. Thanks.
And you too, Sarah.
Love you all. Bye, love. Bye, bye.
Bye, love. Bye. Amy, bye, Nikki. Amy, were you looking to talk, or were you just waving? Not just waving. Were you waving? Sorry.
Oh no, I was just really enjoying the talk. I've learned so much from it, so thank you very much. It's been really insightful.
Very welcome. And Niamh Crowley, I see you. You're actually out of the car. I liked your sunroof.
Yeah, it was good. Bit of sunshine.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, guys.
I heard it all though, Catherine. I heard it all.
You're a brat. How was the golf? She was
Good.
supervising golf this morning. It's like nuts. Okay. I think it's time to say goodbye, and I will see you and love you later and all of those things. Okay. Alan and myself and the team will get something together to go out to you that has as much information, but not too much.
Thanks for everything, Catherine.
You're very welcome indeed. It's lovely to meet you all and see you all.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Bye.